Welcome back to another Cavs game reaction. This one for Game 33 in Toronto against the Raptors, where the Cavs opened up 2024 with a loss on New Year's Day. Raptors winning the game by the final score of 124 to 121. So it was a close, high-scoring affair at the end. Game, like I mentioned, was in Toronto, and the Raptors have been a little bit better at home than they have been on the road. However, still not a great team that the Cavs lost to a couple days ago, and it wasn't as close throughout the game as it was at the tail end of it, where the Cavs had to make a pretty good comeback effort. And it is nice that they were able to come back in the game at all and have a chance to complete that comeback at the end of it. But honestly, in my opinion, this is not a team that you want to be down double digits to in the second and third quarters of this game, where, if anything, that kind of made the comeback effort a little bit more frustrating when you think about it. With, there were the middle stages of the game, and when the Cavs made their comeback, it was you threw your hands up and said, where was this when, the game was being dominated by Toronto and they were getting up by a bunch of points. But, the first quarter as well, even though the Cavs never really got down by a large amount, they still allowed 41 points in that first quarter. Not ideal against anyone. You go back to that Bucks game as well, and that's back-to-back games now where the Cavs have given up 40 points in a quarter in a game, and that's not something you want to be doing, even in this NBA year where scoring has been up by a little bit. But I do want to discuss a little bit about that late fourth quarter, and something that I didn't really understand about the rotation for the Cavs in that game against the Raptors, where Isaac Okoro being out there in the late stages to try to help close the game out did not go well for him, where, he got himself a couple of open looks from three that the Cavs could have used to be made, of course, but the issue being that, ice was cold from beyond the arc on Monday, going 0 for 4 from three-point, including on a shot late in the game where, Scotty Barnes just straight up refuses to close out on him. Just straight up looked at him and decided, I don't need to guard Isaac Okoro, and he was right, where, he was out there. I don't think he had a bad game overall. I feel like he was doing some good things, driving to the basket and finishing around the rim, but the three-pointer was not falling for him. And, on the bench late in that game, you had Sam Merrill, who had tied the game before with an outside shot of his own and was 4 for 8 from beyond the arc on the night. Just a pretty good game for Sam Merrill overall. Just, Cavs couldn't find the answer late. Although they did keep it close at the end, they got, some good results with fouling late in the game and things like that. But it just seemed like the Cavs couldn't get that key stop they needed, or make that key bucket that they would have needed to really close this game out. A Donovan Mitchell missed three-pointer with about 18 seconds left. That was the dagger miss for the Cavs in that game, where Donovan Mitchell, sure, he could have tried to get a cleaner look and milk the clock a little bit more. He did have plenty of more time on the shot clock in the game, but Donovan Mitchell, he is the type of player who has that confidence to take that shot. He certainly made that kind of shot before, so I'm not going to, get too huge into a rant about why he shouldn't have taken that shot. He's certainly taken and made those shots, and that's something that a player you trade the farm for is going to do. You kind of want to have that trust in him to make that shot, and if he puts that shot enough times, sometimes going to make him, sometimes going to miss that kind of shot. But for Donovan Mitchell, a pretty solid game otherwise, but you would have just rather seen that shot go in. Jarrett Allen had himself another double-double, 16 points, 11 rebounds. Not exactly a statistical monster game like he's been having, but still a pretty solid outing for Jarrett Allen in this one. Another quiet game for both Dean Wade and Max Strus. We definitely want to see more shot accuracy from Max Strus in these kind of games where where Garland is out and Craig Porter Jr. getting as little minutes as he did. We'll get into that later in this video as well. Donovan Mitchell, for his efforts, 26 points, 7 assists, and 7 rebounds. Also had 4 steals, and his 4 for 9 from beyond the arc number, but definitely a huge improvement from the Milwaukee game where he was 2 for 10. The high point man for the Cavaliers, however, came off the bench with Karis LeVert, 31 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds, where he's been a guy that they can rely on off the bench for scoring. His road performances especially have been pretty great lately. He is a guy that some Cavs fans wanted traded at last year's trade deadline. Instead, they keep him around and they re-sign him this season, and he's been a great sixth man for Cleveland this year. And I do want to commend JB and the coaching staff for this, is that they kept his assignment consistent even throughout the injuries, and that they could have very easily pulled Karis LeVert up to the starting 5. They have, kept a good thing going with him coming off of the bench. It's worked this season so far, and they've stuck with it despite some of the injuries and the opportunity that they had to maybe pull Karis LeVert up to the starting 5. They don't do that. They keep him on the bench, and so far it's so good as far as that experiment working out. Something else that Bicker staff and the coaching staff have done is they have not given Craig Porter Jr. that many minutes when they don't have to. He was in for a total of 6 whopping minutes and just 1 in the second half. Now, I will say the minutes that he got didn't exactly look too great. He didn't make either of his shots that he took. He did have one board, and I think it was a -11, which, I mean, plus minus isn't that great of a stat anyway, but I think when it is that much of an outlier, there's a little something to it. But it's not like he got any time to turn his game around in this one either. Again, just 1 minute in the second half. The Cavs did not utilize him at all in this game. Sam Merrill had another nice shooting night. I mentioned he was 4 for 8 from beyond the arc. Had a good couple of drives to the hoop as well to get to 16 points. Wasn't the offensive production, in my opinion, that was the issue for the Cavs. It's just the defense could not stop Toronto enough to get it done. Pascal Siakam went off for the Raptors, had 36 points. He had RJ Barrett, a very respectable game as a new face to the Toronto Raptors, 19 points and 9 rebounds as well. He had a double-double for Podol, who had 14 points, 11 rebounds. Just, the Raptors, they didn't have to dig too deep into their bench in order to pull out the W for this one, and the Raptors just kind of offensively put on a little bit of a clinic during stretches of the points of that game where they got out to those big leads. And yes, again, the Cavs, they were able to catch up in that one and make a game out of it, but you think if the Cavs defense were able to clamp down a bit more in the middle stages of the game, maybe that late effort would have resulted in a better result if they just didn't allow the Raptors to get on those huge runs in the middle of the game. But overall, the Cavs did show some resilience to get back into it, but seeing them fall behind the way that they did against the Raptors was definitely a little discouraging. The good news for the Cavs is that their schedule gets much easier from for a little bit of time from here on out, where, the Raptors, they haven't necessarily been that good, but they're certainly a respectable basketball team. I don't think you can say the same thing about the Wizards and the Spurs, which makes up the Cavs' next 3 games here. So those games just put me back in the Cavs jacket. I'll be able to wear that in a video for the first time in 2024 for, the next few videos. But if not, if they come out with these 2 games against the Wizards and the game against the Spurs, if they come out on the losing end of more of those games, or maybe even one of those games, then that could spell trouble for Cleveland in the second half of the season. But that's just how I view it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you didn't make it this far into it, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and like to see more like it. I do cover other teams in Ohio, maybe like those videos as well. But once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you at the next one.